and I don't mean there's some good regulations, but there's just so much that we just can't get anything done. I mean, you take sort of the California wildfires, for example. We really need to have fire breaks, and we need to clear the brush back away from houses, and we need to make sure the reservoirs are full. These are all kind of obvious things, but due to a bunch of environmental rulings, you can't actually do that in California. So they're not allowed to do the fire breaks, and they're not allowed to push the brush back away from houses, because it might hurt some like red-legged frog or something like that. There's like some sort of creature, usually a creature you've never heard of, that is preventing this from occurring. There's like this fish called the smelt, for example, so we have far more freshwater runoff into the ocean than we should really. And on the theory that it helps this one little fish that likes a slightly briny freshwater saltwater mix, and if we keep more freshwater, then the smelt fish will not be happy. But there's no actual evidence that the smelt fish is going to be unhappy if we keep a bit more freshwater. In fact, so we should keep more freshwater, keep the reservoirs full. And just have some sensible fire breaks and move the brush away from houses. That's just an example of like we've saved a lot of trouble, a lot of tragedy in.
That is beautiful. Honestly, Elon Musk is telling the truth. There's way too much environmental regulation right there in California, and the suspension of environmental regulation is a move in the right direction, the resident is saying. Let's hear the news.
Let's get some personal experience of the fire. Joining us now is a resident of La Cañada, Flint Ridge, that is just outside Los Angeles. Christian Forbes joins us. Christian, Governor Newsom has just abandoned environmental impact statements for those who want to rebuild their homes. Do you think that's a move in the right direction?
I absolutely think that's a move in the right direction. I mean, to me personally, the restrictions that we have on building in California is ridiculous. I mean, over 180,000 people were forced into mandatory evacuation, and the people that evacuated, myself included, we couldn't even find a hotel room available because there's such a limited housing supply in California. So I think it's definitely a move in the right direction. But the fact that we even have these regulations to begin with is an indictment of the current situation in California.
I always think of California and environmentalists as having some kind of religion. I think to them it is a religion. So the governor suspending these environmental impact statements, do you think that's going to go down well with a majority of California residents?
I think a lot of Californians have a misunderstanding about how to preserve the environment. They think that they can protect fish, they think that they can do things like that, but then all of a sudden you have a major crisis like a wildfire breakout, and I'm sure the pollution from the wildfire is going to be exponentially greater than whatever was mitigated through a lot of these regulations.
Yep. California...
100% right about this. I think it makes a lot of sense to protect the environment, but when you do this at the expense of lives and housing and people that are now struggling, it is very sad. Honestly, I think Gavin Newsom should resign. He did a terrible job, and he's probably going to keep doing a terrible job if he stays there.
Just don't have like answers to where are we going to be staying for all of this? What's going to happen? Are we ever going to be able to come back to our community? Like, everybody's just so confused and lost, and we have not been able to process this. It's just a trauma, and we're in a shock, and we are all lost.
Southern California residents in shock after seeing their homes burned down. Governor Gavin Newsom vowing to cut the red tape, but California's strict environmental laws, it's tough. So what would that look like? I'm going to bring in Dan Dunmoyer. He's the president of the California Building and Industry Association. And Dan, that's something, I was out there I got there last Tuesday, left on Friday night, and that was one of the big issues. Obviously, people losing their insurance, their house insurance, just months ago on the eve of all of this. And then some of the caps on some of the insurance they were able to get won't be enough. And that's just part of the problem, isn't it?
Charles, you're right. We are definitely in a very tough situation here in California. The fires are still burning. We have an insurance crisis. We have a housing policy crisis. And so all this is coming to the forefront in the national scene that California is struggling as we try to deal with these horrific fires and the rebuild afterwards.
Honestly, Gavin Newsom did a terrible job. He implemented too many regulations, and that stopped from preventing the fire to start and be able to be managed as well. Unfortunately, Newsom should do better. He should know better, and I hope that people replace him very soon.
I'm just looking at a list of some of the regulations, the density restrictions, land use restrictions, construction permit fees, prevailing wage requirements, environmental regulations, local involvement in permitting, Proposition 13, impact fees. It's a wonder that anyone could even afford a home out there in the first place. Is this an opportunity, since the governor is de facto admitting that this red tape gets in the way, could this be an opportunity to turn the tide a little bit?
Yes, we think so. I mean, we're actually very pleased that this early in the process, while the fires are still burning, Governor Newsom came forward. He had two paths to take. One was, well, we're not going to rebuild. We're going to conserve this and not really come back the way we should. Or the other path is the path he did choose to take, which is, I'm going to take steps to remove those impediments. I'm going to take steps to bring California back, and we will rebuild these communities. Charles, you touched on it exactly right. We have, as the state of California, created more policy impediments, more fees, more delays, more regulations than any other state in the nation, red or blue, doesn't matter. We have unfortunately taken a path of bureaucracy overbuilding, and that's a big challenge for us in the great state of California.
He is 100% right about this. Elon Musk was right also by saying that there are too many regulations in California, environmental regulation. And environmental regulations are hurting California's economy, but they are also creating huge crises such as the LA wildfire, and it is sad it should change.
Now, do you think there is a divide in California where there are some people that are doing well financially, that make a lot of money, and for them, $100 a month is a donation to help the environment? But they don't really understand the other side, that $100 can be somebody's food or...
Yeah, over the last 10 years, I will say that the economics of our nation have changed significantly, and California probably being a pinnacle of that change, and that the middle class is the shrinking class. And there's more people either going towards the lower income, and there are some people that are elevating. But there's more that are shrinking, that are going in the smaller income because of the increased costs, and the employment is not commensurate with the demand or the costs.
I agree that California has become a very, very expensive place to live, and that's why there are so many homeless people in California, because they simply cannot afford a home. There are simply way too many people there and not enough housing to lower the price of housing, and it is probably artificially inflated for that reason, to keep the price very, very high and people rich. Unfortunately, the majority of people are not getting rich at all. It's only a few percentage of people that are rich in California, and the rest are struggling.
And so, as you indicated, a lot of the people who are the policymakers are in that upper class, and so they're not able to relate in the same way as to the impacts, because it sounds like only a few cents per gallon, and that really does not impact their bottom line. But people who are struggling, it severely impacts them, because they've got families to feed, and they've got all these expenses that are spiraling up. They have insurance costs, which is a whole nother challenge in itself. It's not being managed very well. And they have all these other electricity, power issues are also a concern. And there's just a lot to manage. And when you have less income and less resources, it's very smothering. And it's very, very hurtful. And I think, as I said, we want clean air and we want clean water too. But I don't see that this particular policy gets us to the point to where it justifies the sacrifice being made.
I agree. He is right. He is a very intelligent guy. I think he's 100% right about what he's saying right there, that we need to do better with our policies to favor the middle class and the lower class that are momentarily struggling right now. And my heart goes out to all of the people that suffered during this wildfire and that are still suffering due to the loss of many, many things.
Joining me now is Jillian Michaels, celebrity fitness trainer. She lost her home back in 2018 in that California wildfire, remember that, and recently evacuated her mom from that Palisades fire. Jillian, this is so heartbreaking to watch, and I'm so angry about what the people there are going through. Will this horrific tragedy spur a political reawakening?
I certainly hope so. And the reality is that we have to make this about negligence and corruption, because the truth of the matter is, the more we dig in on right and left, whether it is or whether it isn't, the more people who find themselves on the left are refusing to see what's right in front of their face. So I think the key here is to focus on everything that was done wrong, what needs to happen next, and asking yourself if the people currently in power are capable of facilitating that. And to me, the answer is overwhelmingly no.
Yeah, I think she's right about this thing. I think she's telling the truth right there. I think many people on the left are refusing to see the facts. They see that Gavin Newsom was a terrible governor, that he made many mistakes during his job in California, and they are simply refusing to see that it is responsible for these catastrophic events and that he should be held accountable for this.
Well, Jillian, we saw what happened in Hawaii and those fires. That ended up being a significant depopulation of what once was, again, like this, an idyllic landscape. People just picked up and left, went to other islands, went back to the mainland. And I mean, people without trust in government start to spin theories, and some of them conspiracy theories, thinking they want these neighborhoods gone. They want to rezone. They want towers. They want to turn this into, you know, something that looks more like Boca Raton, or Tyson's Corner, Virginia, than it did the Palisades.
Yeah, I don't think any people wanted this wildfire to spread that wide, honestly. I don't think any people wanted to have all of these buildings destroyed and all of these things completely burned out to be able to rebuild. I don't think that was the case at all. I think it's simply incompetence and negligence that caused the wildfire to start and spread that quickly and destroy basically everything in its wake. And it is sad. It is totally sad. Someone should be held accountable for this, and that is probably the mayor of Los Angeles and Gavin Newsom, the governor of California. We will see if the situation improves. Let me know what you think about this. Do you think Elon Musk was right by saying there are too many environmental regulations in California that are basically endangering people right there? They are prioritizing the environment over the people that are simply living there, and it is sad. Honestly, hopefully the situation improves. Let me know in the comment section below and click right there to watch the next video, and I will see you there. Bye bye.